I'll admit I don't have the normal life I had envisioned when I thought of getting married. I apologize if this is a bit long and convoluted. My wife and I have been together for 20 years and married for 11 years. I would say today we are best friends and confidants. She is absolutely gorgeous and I love her very much. But it's much more complex than that. When we started seeing each other 20 years ago, the life was fantastic and frequent. But it took a slow but very steady decline, so that by the time we married, my wife's libido wound down to almost zero. She worked later hours than me, so we started to sleep in different bedrooms. At some point I realized we were becoming friends and roommates, rather than spouses, and that hurt deeply. I'd speak to her about it, trying to hide the anger and hurt it caused, but failing, but we never really got anywhere. The interesting thing is it never seemed to get really bad. We were still great together in all other aspects. We would hug and kiss, but I noticed in myself the affection, the touching that I used to give her were starting to wane. I broke down and told my wife that the thought of going the rest of my life without sex was killing me. My wife suggested an open marriage, and while I was hesitant, I soon found a FWB and realized that by having regular great sex with someone else, I was actually kinder, more affectionate and loving with my wife. Our marriage, other than sleeping together, was dramatically better. My FWB eventually decided that she wanted something more and, realizing it wasn't going to be with me, and with heart a tiny bit broken, moved on to meet and marry a great man. We're still friends to this day. And so it went with several of these relationships, and each would follow the same cycle. I'd meet a woman, talk about my situation truthfully, and manage to find a lover. Sometimes it would be a few night stand, sometimes it would be months-long relationships. It would always end the same way, though, with us getting feelings for each other, her eventually realizing we didn't have a future together, and her moving on. It turns out that there are a lot of people in this world who just want to feel loved and will take it where they can find it. While I'd come home, tell my wife of this, not details, we'd talk, laugh, kiss and hug like we always did. My wife also found a FWB and her relationship with him followed the same trajectory as the one we had, with the benefits part waning rather quickly, I suppose, once the hormones from a new exciting relationship went away. And still, we came home to each other, laughed, kissed and went to sleep in our separate bedrooms. I took a job at a startup in a city a few hours away, and since it was very unstable, we decided my wife would stay at her job for a little longer, and then we'd find a place together in the new city. Well, it turned out that that job, once it stabilized, involved an extended stay in a remote town for a year. Not wanting to move my wife there for a temporary posting, we kept our LDR, visiting each other every few weeks to a month, always having a good time together. Now here's where it gets complicated. I met our 50F 2.5 years ago, at the very end of this posting, when I was interviewing for a new job. She was stunningly beautiful and funny, and I by chance met her in the hotel where I was staying. We clicked, went back to my room and had an amazing time together. She was in a failing marriage and about to move out, but not ready to publicly acknowledge that her marriage was over. She needed to be desired and wanted, but couldn't have a real boyfriend. We met several times while my previous job was finishing, and I wound up taking that job at which I interviewed, putting me in the same city as her. My wife and I started looking for a place together in the new city. At this startup, also being unstable, it looked like things were going to change quickly, so we held off on finding a place together, and continued the LDR, seeing each other every few weeks, and always having a great time together. In the meantime, R and I kept growing closer. We would go out together, plan dates, spend nights, weekends at each other's places, and act like couples do. Still, she understood the relationship my wife and I had and respected it. My job kept me on the road, so we would often go weeks without seeing each other, only to fall right back into each other's arms, when we were together again. We would joke about how she was going to dump me when she got that divorce and could date again. Eventually, R and her husband got that divorce. Then the pandemic hit. I moved back in with my wife, finally, and we get along great just like old times, without sex. But the pandemic put the pause on normal dating, and Rena and I kept the relationship going, with me visiting her every few weeks, and spending a week or so together, having an amazing time together, laughing, snuggling, and having great sex. Well, this year as the world opened up again, Rena started dating online and met someone. It was finally time for her to move on. Only this time, I realized that it was my heart that broke. Despite always loving my wife, and always choosing her, I had fallen for this woman, and the knowledge that I was losing her tore me apart. It hit me that the pain of ending relationships is really only tolerable with the hope that maybe the next one won't end. I, on the other hand, was continuously putting others and myself in relationships with an expiration date, and the pain of a breakup guaranteed. I realized what I was doing was such a waste of love, energy, and time that could be spent, undivided, with one person. I had an extremely difficult conversation with my wife and told her that I loved and adored her, but that I can't be in a marriage without the intimacy and connection of sex. And I can't repeat the cycle I've been in again. The hurt for everyone was too much. I expected this conversation to be the beginning of our divorce. She actually agreed with me though. She said she blamed herself and her mother's aversion to sex, as well as some pain when we were having sex previously. She said she's attracted to me and wanted to try again. We agreed to start slow. Just touching and holding each other intimately, then cuddling, then actually sleeping in the same bed. Last night we had sex for the first time in many years. It was different, without the rush of a new relationship, but with the comfort of knowing each other's bodies, even from a long time ago. I'm not under the illusion that we're fixed, or that we'll just go on perfectly fine from here, and it could all fall apart, but for now, I have hope for a real marriage. I know it's a bit of a reach, but if anyone has experience with this kind of thing, I could use some advice. I want to believe it's possible to save this marriage, and I'm looking for help to give it a chance. My wife and I tried an open marriage due to libido issues, and it almost tore us apart. We're trying to come back from it and rekindle bedroom intimacy. I don't know if it's truly possible, and I'm looking for help to give us the best chance to make it.